All right, welcome to The Explainer. So you think you know the story of how we figured out the Earth orbits the Sun, right? It's this classic tale of scientific heroes. But what if I told you the main character in that story isn't who you think it is? And what if the whole thing actually kicked off over 1,000 years before we're usually told? Yeah, let's get into the hidden history of heliocentrism. You know, the version we all learn in school feels like a Hollywood movie. It starts with this ancient idea that the Earth is the center of the universe, the geocentric model, and that this idea was law for over 1,000 years. It's a story about reason fighting against dogma, with a couple of brilliant minds changing our place in the cosmos forever.
And this is the timeline we all memorized. It kicks off way back in the 2nd century with Ptolemy. He builds this incredibly detailed model with the Earth right at the heart of everything. And you know what? It worked pretty well for predicting where planets would be, which is why it became the gold standard for almost 1,400 years. Then boom, 1543. Nicholas Copernicus publishes his game-changing book, putting the sun in the middle. And then finally, in the early 1600s, Galileo comes along with his telescope, finds the proof, and has that famous epic clash with the church. It's a very clean, straightforward story.
But this is where the plot thickens. What if those revolutionary ideas weren't so new after all? What if a huge piece of this puzzle was already solved more than a millennium before Copernicus was even a thought?
To find out, we have to jump in a time machine and head back to 5th century India. We're going to meet an absolute genius, a mathematician and astronomer named Aryabhata. He wrote this incredible text that had some ideas that were, well, just completely radical for his time. Get this. In the year 499 AD, Aryabhata suggested that the reason the sun and stars seem to march across the sky every day isn't because the heavens are revolving around us. No, it's because the Earth itself is spinning. I mean, that is a massive, massive conceptual leap, a full 1,000 years before that idea would finally take hold in Europe.
And the way he explained it is it's perfect. Aryabhata used this brilliant analogy. He said, imagine you're in a boat moving forward on a river. The trees on the shore, which are standing still, look like they're moving backward, right? He said the exact same thing is happening with us on Earth. We're in the boat, and our spinning makes the fixed stars look like they're moving across the sky. It's such a simple, elegant way to explain the incredibly complex idea of relative motion.
Now, we need to be super clear about something here. Aryabhata was talking about Earth's rotation. That's its daily spin. That's different from its revolution, which is its yearly trip around the sun. That was Copernicus's big idea. So what Aryabhata proposed was a crucial first step, but it wasn't the whole heliocentric picture, yet.
But a spinning Earth wasn't the only mind-blowing idea coming out of ancient India. If we move forward just a bit to the 7th century, we see that other thinkers were tackling some equally huge questions, like, what are the basic forces that run the universe?
So, check this out. An astronomer named Brahmagupta, who came after Aryabhata, used the specific term, Gurutvaakarshanam, to talk about gravity. He literally wrote that it's just the nature of the Earth to attract things and keep them. Now, this wasn't the full-blown mathematical theory that Newton would come up with, of course, but it's a clear, conceptual grasp of gravity as an attractive force, and this is centuries and centuries before it was figured out in the West.
Okay, so all of this brings us to a really fascinating debate that historians still have. Given how incredibly advanced Aryabhata's thinking was, is it possible he was secretly using a sun-centered model for his calculations, even if he never came out and said it? And this is where it gets really murky. On one hand, you look at his math. He calculates the orbits of planets in relation to the sun. His numbers just click into place perfectly if you assume the sun is at the center. But on the other hand, his actual written text clearly describes a model with the Earth at the center. The general consensus today is that his system wasn't explicitly heliocentric. It's a real puzzle. Maybe he was just using a brilliant mathematical framework that happens to mirror a heliocentric one.
And just to make things even more complex, the idea of a sun-centered system wasn't just in India. Way, way back in the 3rd century BC, a Greek astronomer named Aristarchus of Samos flat out proposed a heliocentric model. But his ideas were mostly ignored or lost, completely overshadowed by the Earth-centered models that became so popular.
So we've got these incredible sparks of genius popping up in different places at different times. But what happened to them? Well, the fate of these ideas tells us a lot about how science actually works, and how it sometimes doesn't.
Back in India, the thinkers who came after Aryabhata, including Brahmagupta, actually rejected his theory of a spinning Earth. His idea just didn't catch on. In fact, some historians think that later scribes might have actually changed his texts to try and hide or downplay his original ideas.
And now, fast forward 1,000 years to Europe, and you see this incredible parallel. Copernicus' book was officially banned by the Catholic Church and put on the Index of Forbidden Books, and it stayed there for hundreds of years. In both cases, you have this radical, world-changing idea that gets met with some serious resistance from the establishment.
So what's the big takeaway here? I think it's that the history of science isn't this neat, straight line. It's not a relay race where the baton gets passed cleanly from one great thinker in one part of the world to the next.
It's so much messier and more interesting than that. It's more like a giant, chaotic, global conversation. You have ideas from ancient Greece and classical India that are kept alive, debated, and built upon during the Islamic Golden Age. And all of that knowledge then helps light the fire of the scientific revolution in Europe. It's this amazing, interconnected story of ideas being found and lost and then found all over again.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? The story we thought we knew about our place in the universe is so much bigger, so much more global than we're ever taught. And it just begs the question, what other stories have we gotten wrong? What other hidden histories are out there, just waiting for us to find them?
If you enjoyed going down this historical rabbit hole with us, do me a favor and hit that like button, and make sure you subscribe to The Explainer for more deep dives. Thanks so much for watching.